Derek Long here with Quest Trust Company. So today we have a really unique webinar with a personal friend of mine, someone that has actually really helped me out with a lot of my IRA investments, with my personal investments, and probably is the #1 person I have always gone to when I have questions about real estate related topics, whether it's rental properties, fix and flips, contract issues, lending money, borrowing money. But today he's going to be talking a lot about the lending side of things. Now, before we dive into that area, right, and I bring on our guest speaker, we always like to kind of talk about some brief things that are up and coming. So remember, if you guys are attending, right, this is our quick disclaimer that we're only here for educational purposes. Let us know what we can do to help you out. But remember that we can't give you any investment advice or tax advice or legal advice, but we can always provide you some of the best education out there, especially when it comes to using your IRA to do some sort of real estate investment. All that being said, there's a big elephant in the room that some of you may not be aware of, and that is about a giant up-and-coming bill change that has been proposed that could affect everyone out there, right, that has a retirement account that is being self-directed right now. So I just want to take a moment, and this is not something we normally do, all right, but we always want to make sure that people understand what's going on behind the scenes. So right now, up there at the Congress level is a bill that's being proposed that includes language that will drastically determine and affect everyone's retirement account that is attending this webinar. So what are some of the things they're going to be talking about right in this bill? And I'll go ahead and recap all this is specifically some of the high dollar value earners out there. Someone that has an IRA worth $10 million or more, they may have to distribute a portion of it. They may have to start taking RMDs much earlier than 72, right? Right now, it doesn't seem like they want you to have a retirement account worth $10 million or more. But that's okay, Derek. My account's not worth that. So what else do you got for me? Well, understand that during these things, it could be affecting things like your Roth contributions, right? They may not be allowing you to do a Roth contribution if you earn too much money. Right now, this has always been kind of the case since about 2010. But what you've always been able to do, though, is do a Roth conversion, not just a contribution. Right now, if I'm going to do a Roth conversion, this means that I'm making too much money to directly contribute. Therefore, right now, what I'm going to end up doing is I contribute to my traditional IRA, I do a conversion. They may be getting rid of that for some of our higher income earners out there, up to $400,000 a year. Now, this is scary. Why? Because this means that many of our clients and many of you listening right now may no longer qualify for a Roth IRA. Wow. Starting 2022, that could be pretty detrimental for some of us as investors. That's not all it's doing. It's also limiting what every investor out there can self-direct their IRA into. They no longer will allow the IRAs to pretty much invest into some sort of syndication, someone that's raising capital. This means it eliminates things like multifamily investments, senior living facilities, storage units, right? Anything that could be considered 506B or 506C accreditations. Wow. It also states into things like getting rid of things such as cryptocurrency. If you're someone out there that's experimenting over there in something that's not real estate, man, they're getting rid of a lot of things. Your IRA will no longer be able to hold in a solely membered individual LLC, right? Oh, as we kind of go through these things, we're like, wow, this is up and coming and it's so fast. And it could take place as soon as the new year. So we want to make sure everyone out there has a chance to attend a real class. So there's a QR code right there. If you want to scan with your phone or take a quick screenshot, you can sign up for a class that myself and Quincy Long will be doing tomorrow to help facilitate some of your questions and answers. So quick recap, each of these sections here you see on the screen is I can email this to you as well, is about the bill, right? We got each one of these talking about your contributions, R&Ds for larger accounts, the backdoor Roth conversions, right? Syndications and raising capitals, and ultimately the checkbook control and the LLCs. So remember, each one of these sections in this bill, you can Google it yourself, is going to be talking about it. If you would like to attend the class, it is 100% free to every individual out there. Right? Once again, you can scan the QR code or immediately right now in the chat box, just give me your email address and I'll sign you up for the class so you don't miss it. All right. Don't let these things scare you. All right. I understand I'm using kind of a scare tactic to talk about it, but that's why we're here to educate you on what we can do moving forward. All right. How can we maybe prevent bills like this from passing? What can we do to answer your questions? And that is what this webinar will all be about. All right. Tomorrow at 2:00 Central Time with H. Quincy Long, me and him will be talking all about this area. Now, without any further ado, now that I've scared the pants off everyone, all right, I want to bring in a close friend of mine. And the gentleman that's getting ready to come up here and speak actually runs one of the #1 successful real estate organizations out here in Houston. All right. In addition, I've seen him help personally without getting paid probably hundreds of other real estate investors. Right. He really has helped me on an individual level, not just on my IRA investments, but my personal investments. And I go to him probably almost too much, which is why I was really excited to make a quick introduction. So, Steve, are you there?
I'm here if I can figure out to keep my camera on.
Man, I am so glad you're joining us today. I know you're going to be talking a lot about some of the lending sides and things, and I don't want to give away too much about what you specifically do because I know you do so much. But I'm going to still be here in the background, and we have moderators. So I'm going to let you kind of have the floor. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, first, before we get going here, just so everybody knows, when I'm doing the presentation, I got to concentrate on the presentation, so I don't answer questions. I'm really bad about that. But I'll take any questions at the end if we want to do that. I'm more than happy to answer anything everybody has. But with that being said, let me share my screen so we can kind of get going here. Hope everybody can see that. And just a little bit about, me and who I am and what we've done over the years. Susan, my partner, and I, we've got a lot of companies. They're all SVSM companies for our initials. And then we've also got the Wealth Club for our education. And over the years, we have, done hundreds of rehabs. We own a large rental portfolio. We sell properties, owner finance. We have a mortgage note program, and we are in the process of creating some new programs right now. And everything that we have done has been done through private lenders. We have never used hard money. We have some more institutionalized refinances on some properties, but we have a lot of private lenders, money to work in long-term projects that we've got, just a wide variety. And then we also do some lending ourselves. So we think we're very well-rounded in everything that we do. And that's why we try to teach classes like this, because I want people to learn how to do it the correct way, the ethical way, the way that you can find people to work with over and over and over again and build these great relationships. And that's really, really important to us. So a little bit about me. So let's kind of get going, because I got a lot here, and want to make sure we get everything covered today. So the first thing I always want to do when I'm doing a presentation like this is give my disclaimer is, this workshop is for educational purposes only. I'm not going to be giving you any legal advice or any accounting advice. If you need that type of advice, please get with your attorney, get with your accountants, get with your CPAs, whoever that may be, because it's very important that we do that. The education that I'm going to be sharing with you today is based off of my own experiences of the things that we do. And before you ever get into any type of investment of any kind, please always do your own due diligence. That's so important that we do that. The biggest problem I see is a lot of people don't do that. And that's what one of the reasons this presentation was put together like it is. Most of this presentation, I'm going to be talking from the lender side, but because I know both sides very well, some of it I will be talking from the borrower's perspective, because a lot of it goes hand in hand. So, as we all know, the game is changing out there as we speak. Just like Derek just mentioned, some new legislation coming up to try and be passed. This kind of stuff is happening all the time. And, over the past several years, our market has changed tremendously. From going to a very, very strong economy to whatever's going on out there right now, because there's a lot of chaos going on out there. But, but at the same time, there's lots of opportunities out there if we know what to do and how to go and find these opportunities. one of the things that I think is extremely important, no matter who we are, what level we're at, we can never stop getting education on what we're doing. And, if we're new in the game, we definitely need to get a lot of education before we go out and put our money to work anywhere. We need to find out what we're doing and where we need to go with it. And we need to know the ins and outs of different types of investments that work for us. One of the things I see a lot, I've seen over the past couple of years a lot, is people just jumping into deals of all kinds. And that generally turns out to be a disaster. Good generally doesn't come out of things like that. And I want to stress, don't just go and jump into anything. No matter who's getting you excited about whatever kind of deal is going on, do your homework before you jump into that deal. It's very important that you do that. And as I go through the presentation today, I think you'll understand why I'm saying that. And, today I'm here to teach you the things that I know. I'm not going to try and teach you things I don't know, but everything that we do, I've always been a very big believer that there are no secrets out there in business, in this business or any business. And being an open book and explaining what we do, I have no problem with. And if that's how we help people, and I want to see people make good decisions. I want to see people have success in what they're doing. I don't want to see people fail. And most of the time when people come to me, it's after something has gone wrong. And that's never a good place to be. So one of the things I talk about all the time, and many, many things that I teach about, is, do you have a plan in place? And really, I find that most people don't have a plan in place. And I really think it's really important that we start with that. So what type of investment deals should we be looking for? Because I have people ask me this question all the time. What type of investment should I do? Well, there's going to be a different answer for everybody when I get asked this question, because there's so many variables. We're all different people. We're all in different situations. We're all at different places in our life. So you have to answer some questions to yourself about that. I mean, so, do you have any specific goals that you're trying to accomplish as a passive investor? That's the first thing I think we always need to ask ourselves. How old are we, for example? The younger we are, maybe the more creative we can be. But the younger we are, maybe we want to start a family. Maybe that's our motivation for being a passive investor. Maybe we want to buy our first home to live in. Someone's going to think about it much differently at 30 years old than someone that's my age. I'm going to be looking at it much differently. So the goals I want to accomplish as a passive investor are going to be very different. And there's a million variables with everybody, just depending on where we are in life. So we've got to kind of analyze ourselves. And that's kind of when we start putting a plan together for where we are and what we want to accomplish. It really starts to help us as we move forward in knowing and deciding what type of investments work best for us. Where's the best place to put our money? Getting the education based on whatever that answer may be for whoever you are. Quick drink there. So finding an investment strategy that works for you. Like I said, there's a lot of the time, most of us think that the only thing that we can invest in is fix and flip properties, because that's what most people talk about. You hear about that all the time. Maybe it's rental properties. You hear about that all the time. But there's really a lot of different strategies out there. And what is your personality where you're going to have the most success? So one of the things I think that's really important that we think about is, what are our short-term versus our long-term financial goals? We're all going to have different goals of what we're trying to accomplish. Like I said, if I just mentioned, if we're younger, maybe we want to raise a family. Maybe we want to start a family. So we need to have those short-term goals in there to accomplish that. At the same time, at some point, we probably want to retire. So we need to think of our long-term financial goals for maybe retirement, maybe for putting our kids through college. mapping this out is really going to help us as we move forward. And, one of the things that I think is really important that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, I think we think it, but we don't necessarily verbalize it, is what are our risk tolerances? And a lot of that can have, it's going to be different for everybody. And I think a lot of the time when I do talk about risk tolerances with people, age is a huge factor in that. The younger we are, the more we're willing to take a little bit of risk, because if something goes wrong, we've got time to make it up. When you get my age, I don't have that much time to make it up if I screw up. So I want to make sure I do it right the first time. And that's what that's what we're going to be talking about as we keep going forward with this, is making sure that we're protecting ourselves and thinking about all this stuff before we jump into it, and setting the situation up to give us the best advantage to be successful as passive real estate investors. So what are your plans for finding opportunities? This is something that's really, really difficult for a lot of people. And especially if you're newer to trying to be a passive investor, and we don't really know what we want to do or how we would need to do it. When we become a passive investor, if we move our money over to a company like Quest, then it's up to us to go out and find those opportunities to put that money to work. And I kind of want to point that out a little bit, because I think sometimes people have a very their perception of how that works is off a little bit. And I've had people come to me and actually tell me, hey, I moved my money over to Quest. When do you think they're going to start sending me opportunities to find? And I have to explain to them that it doesn't work like that. Quest is a third-party administrator making sure everything is done legally and correctly. They're not allowed to go out and find opportunities for you. That's up to us to go out and do as individuals. And if you don't know where to go or how to do that, it can be very, very difficult. It can be very intimidating. And this is where I see a lot of people get in a bad situation. And that's what we want to prevent anybody from doing. So how do you plan on finding opportunities to put your money to work? That's really the big question. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because, if we want to find these opportunities, then we've got to put ourselves out there in front of everybody. But when we put ourselves out in front of everybody, it opens the door for everybody and anybody to come to us. So we've got to have that education and know where we want to go. And this is something that a lot of times I see a lot of newer investors get excited because somebody comes to them, they get them all pumped up and excited. And about half the time that turns out to be a bad decision. And we'll go into more of that here in just a minute. So, we've got to have the balances, finding those individuals with a lot of experience to work with oftentimes is where you need to go. Attending events with Quest, coming to Wealth Club meetings, things like that is how we find these types of opportunities, and we are able to know that we're making a better decision than a bad decision. I'll put it that way. So, talking to potential borrowers. Now, this is something this is something that we do. No matter which side of the deal we're on, whether if we're on the lending side or the borrowing side, these are just kind of some things that how we've always set up our business, and it's worked very, very well. And like I say, you can do this on either side of it. And if you're out there trying to go out and raise private money, these are some good things, good advice I think you should pay attention to, because it's important. But when we meet a potential borrower, I want to try and find out who that person is. I need to know a little bit about that person. I'm very much the type of investor that builds relationships. Building relationships are everything to me. And that's where we start, and that's where we end all of the things that we do. So it's very important that we're finding out about that individual. We've got a whole system of how we vet people. I want to find out, do our personalities align, for starters? I know tons of people. I go to lots of meetings, always have. I'm great at networking. I love getting out and networking. And I talk to lots of people. I'm friendly with everybody. We shake hands, we talk, we have a beer, but that doesn't mean that our personalities align to do business. Doesn't mean that this is somebody that I think I'm going to work well with. And I turn down as many people as we've brought them on our team from the borrower or the lender side over the years. I've turned down probably double that many people to work with because personalities didn't line. Our expectations were different on what we were trying to achieve. And so I think it's really important to take the time and build these relationships, because the relationships with the people that we work with, we've been working with for years. We do a project, then we want to do another project, immediately after that, and it goes on, and that's the type of relationships you're trying to find out there. This is where we can put our money to work, and this is where we can have way, way, way more success. So in the beginning, when we're meeting somebody and talking to them, we have those conversations of, okay, if you're going to be the passive investor, this is the role I want you to play. If you're going to be the borrower, this is the role that the borrower needs to play, depending on what type of opportunities you're going to be working on together. We meet with our, if we're on either side, if we're the lending side or the borrowing side, we meet with our potential clients 3-4 times, figuring these things out long before any opportunities are presented in any way, shape, or form. It's really important, I think, to do that. We want to build a lot of trust with everybody that we're working with. We want to know that we have a great comfort level. I want to know 100% that if I'm lending to someone, that no matter what happens on that deal, they're not going to bail. They're still going to be there. They're going to do everything they can to get everything worked out. They're not going to miss payments. Those things are crucial. And oftentimes, especially in the beginning, if we're not going through these steps, we don't really know that person. And they're just telling us whatever we want to hear. And then things go wrong. And that's not what we want at all. So we put these extra steps in place. This is not just once in a while. This is for everybody we meet and talk to about potential business partnering, and on either side of the table. This is a crucial step, in our opinion, and we follow this every time. This is one of our systems, and it works very, very well. So take it and work it. So how do we vet the deals and the borrowers? This is something that I think is really, really difficult for most people, especially if you're newer. And not even so much if you're newer, but even if you've been doing it a while. Do you know how to analyze a deal when it's brought to you? Because can say just from my own experience that a very large percentage of private lenders have no idea how to analyze a deal. They're going strictly by what that individual that comes to them that wants to borrow that money is telling them. Now, I'm not saying that person is good or bad. I don't have any idea. But if that person is not a good person, then you could be setting yourself up for a really bad situation. If the numbers aren't what that person is telling you, then you might be lending to that person incorrectly. That's what Derek was talking about. I mean, Derek and we do this all the time. When we're looking at deals, I run the numbers all the time. I'm very good at running numbers, and that's what I do. And I stick with what I believe. We try to set our business up very similar if you're working with a hard money lender. First thing they're going to do is they're going to send an appraiser out to that property to figure out what that property is worth. Well, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just not hiring an appraiser to do it. I'm actually running the comps on that neighborhood and evaluating that neighborhood. And that helps us make better decisions. I'm still going to be doing, once I determine what my ARV is on that property, then I'm still only lending my correct percentages on that. I'm still lending 70% on that property. I follow those same rules that the experts, that the pros set up. Why wouldn't I? But oftentimes we don't do that because we don't know. And when we get excited and want to lend that money out, it's very easy to overlook that kind of stuff. So do you have systems in place for vetting deals? And this is what I'm talking about, and if you don't know how to vet your deals, then you need to find someone that can help you vet those deals. One of the things we've done with the Wealth Club is put a program together just for that. So we can make sure, because I really hate it when I see people losing money over deals that they shouldn't have lost money on. So let's work towards making money, not losing money. So, do you have some standards on how you want to lend your money? I think this is something that we really need to think about in the beginning. What are our standards? I mean, we've got standards when we're lending. We've got standards when we're borrowing. We have parameters of how we work, and we stay inside those parameters. If we're lending, we lend 70% LTV, loan to value, off of our comps, not off of someone else's, not off of my borrowers. It's my comps. And if let me see, another standard would be, we don't lend on deals over a certain dollar amount. I'm not comfortable doing the high-end expensive deals. We have parameters for what we lend, what dollar amounts we stay in. So coming up with some standards that you're comfortable with and sticking to is really important. So you may want to make sure that you do that. And like I said, if you're not sure, then get some help. I mean, I just did a presentation. I remember what it was the other day, but one of my sentences in there was, don't be afraid to ask for help. Never be afraid to ask for help, because that's what's going to help make sure that we have success and don't have failures. That's really important for me to make sure that I get that point across to you. So I'm kind of blocking myself here with what I'm trying to read. Does a borrower have experience and a track record? This is something I think that we need to ask a whole lot more of. What is the experience of whoever we're going to be lending to? And one of the things that's really important to me is, how does someone approach you when they want you to lend money to them? Because to me, that approach is really important. Because like I've explained so far, I'm about building relationships. I'm about seeing results. And I have seen people, and I've seen this numerous times over the years, where we're at a networking event and someone's standing at the door, and as everybody's walking in, they're just asking everybody, are you a private lender? Are you a private lender? Well, they're going to get no's all night long. That's not a good approach. That's a terrible approach. If someone's just coming at me to lend based on what they're telling me, they're not trying to build a relationship. If I've even had people tell me, I'm here to borrow money from you. I'm not here to be your friend. I've actually heard people say that. Well, if that's the case, then guess who won't be working with me? So how people approach you, I think, is important, and we need to pay attention to that. We can tell a lot about an individual by that. When you find an opportunity, who's the person bringing you the opportunity, basically? So is this someone that you already know, or is this someone that you just met? Now, I'm not saying don't work with someone that you just met, because we're always building new relationships. And I think that's a very good thing to do, and we certainly do that. But we need to, there's a lot of people that I know out there that come to me that I don't do business with, because I know how they do business and I know how I do business, and I know that it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work well at all. I meet new people and they've got a great system in place. They know what they're doing. They've got a plan in place. That's the person I might want to work with. So those are some important things I think we need to look at for every time someone comes to us. And, how long has this borrower been in business? How many deals have they done? These are some really basic questions, things that I think we need to know. But there's some of the things that I hardly ever hear anybody ask these questions. That's why I'm just pointing it out, really. I mean, it's not difficult stuff here, but we don't think about it. And sometimes, like I say, I think the biggest problem is we get excited. And we tend to forget about these things when we get excited. And that's human nature. I see it happen all the time. And hey, I fell into that category myself in the beginning. So I can say that from experience as well. So, know who you're working with, find out about who you're going to work with, and then you can move forward and boom, let's go make some great things happen. I'm all about that. So, does your borrower have systems in place for your lender? Now, this is something that most people, actually, I don't know anybody else that does this, but this is what we do. And this is something that we kind of created over a long period of time, just from doing a lot of business and doing a lot of work. But we came up with some really good systems for our lenders, because our philosophy has always been to make it as simple for our lenders as possible. With everything we do, we want to make it very simple for them. And through that thought process, we came up with a system and things that we've got to do every time. So when we decide to move forward on a deal, we have there's a questionnaire that we're going to have to fill out for the attorney that's going to write up the paperwork. And that questionnaire is going to give you the information on who the lender is. I'm going to talk from the borrower side for a second. So if I'm the borrower, we're going to fill this paperwork out because we've had all these previous meetings. We've got to know who our lenders are. We know who we're working with. We've already discussed what terms we're going to work under, everything. We know exactly what we're doing. So we take that burden off of our lender's plate and we fill out the questionnaire. We'll have some conversation. Hey, do you want us to start the paperwork? And in our cases with our lenders, are like, yeah, go ahead and get the paperwork started. So we will fill out the questionnaire. Then once we fill it out, then we will send it to our lender to read it and approve it. Make sure everything is correct on it. Make sure we don't need to change anything. If everything is correct, then we will send that questionnaire to the attorney. Now, we work with a couple of attorneys, and all of our lenders know our attorneys. We all work together. But what you've got to really keep in mind, and I think most people don't necessarily know this, but as the lender, that attorney works for you. The attorney is not working for me as the borrower in this situation. The attorney is working for you, the lender. Now, I'm just helping out to make it smoother for my lender. But my attorney, I even call them my attorneys, my attorney is still working for my lender. He's not working for me. So then the attorney will do the paperwork. Then they will send us the paperwork and we will check the attorney's, the deed of trust, promise, all the closing documents. And if we see that there's mistakes, stuff, we will send it back for corrections. Once we feel that everything is correct from the attorney, then we will send it to our lender to check everything on there, make sure we haven't missed anything, make sure everything's correct, sign off on it and approve it. And then once it's approved, then the attorney will send the paperwork to the appropriate parties. If it's the title company for a fix and flip or rental home finance deal, it was in our note program that works a little bit different, but it's still, the attorney still sends out the proper paperwork to the right people. So we're doing that to make it easy on our lenders, and our lenders like that a lot. But we're going through all this extra steps to do this. So when you can find borrowers to work with that have systems, not necessarily exactly like ours, but have systems in place to make it easy on you and help you, this is a huge advantage. This tells you the kind of person you're working with. And this is really important. Now, with that being said, one of the most important things that I can point out in this entire presentation is always, always, always make sure that your paperwork is coming from an attorney. Because I see a lot of paperwork on a lot of deals that there's no attorney involved. And some of these deals turn out really bad for the individual that's lending that money. I was at an event, been about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and after I was up talking, I was on a panel about private lending, and afterwards a lady came up to me at our booth and asked me, she says, I think I got a problem, I've listened to you, can I talk to you? She pulls a manila envelope out of her purse, opens it up, and it's a 2-page document that she had given somebody a lot of money. And this paperwork was written up by this individual. And it was terrible. I mean, it was, 5th grade English. It was terrible. It was written horribly. And there was nothing in that paperwork that was protecting this lender. There was nothing. The money she was giving wasn't backed by an asset of any kind. She was basically just giving him the money. There was no time frame on this paperwork when it needed to be paid back. And when they signed this paperwork and she brought him the money, she met him at a Denny's for breakfast. And she gave this individual 3 cashier's checks totaling $100,000. She'll never see that money again. This person's gone now. So always, always, always make sure your paperwork is being done correctly, and it's always coming from an attorney. That's very, very crucial. And that's why I tell you that little story, because that's heartbreaking to see that happen. And you don't want that to be you. And I certainly don't want that to be you. So always make sure about that. Do you have some standard terms? Now, if you've already been doing the things we were talking about in the beginning, you should have standard terms that you want to work with whoever you're going to work with. And, you should have thought about how you're going to be structuring all of your terms. And all of this has to go into your paperwork. And if you're working through an attorney is going to be, if you don't know this stuff, your attorney is going to be asking you these questions. So this is a really, really important part of the puzzle. And this is to protect you when you want to lend your money out. So I can't stress this enough. This is a really, really important part, but I see it missed more times than I'd like to admit. So, when should we walk away from a deal? This is something I wish more people would ask me. When should I walk away from that deal? Well, this is just common sense stuff in my mind, but maybe not. But if the numbers don't make sense to you, walk away from the deal. It's not a big deal. Walk away from it. And I don't know how many times we've heard this over the years, but if the deal seems too good to be true, probably is. It probably is. If your gut's telling you the opposite of what your head's telling you, and what I mean by that is if someone's brought you this opportunity and you're all excited and you're going, it sounds great, but something inside of me is saying something doesn't make sense. Something just isn't quite right. Walk away from the deal. What we tend to forget about is there's always going to be opportunities out there. This isn't the only deal in the world. But sometimes when we get excited, we think it is. There's always going to be another opportunity out there. Never, ever, ever be afraid to walk away from a deal. And I've said that in many situations, many times over the years. It's the same thing when you're buying a property that you're going to flip and the numbers don't work. Walk away from the deal. This is no different. Except in this situation, your money's out there on the line. Don't be afraid to walk away from a deal. The higher the return on your investment, the greater the risk. And this is always going to hold true no matter in real estate or anything that we're doing out there. But for a lot of us, most of the time, our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. And, I just see this all the time. We always want the higher return. Everybody, all of us, we always want to get the higher return on the investment. But oftentimes we fail to look at the risk involved in getting that higher return. I see it all the time. I mean, it's like our brain kind of goes sideways on us. Oh, I can get this return. And I know that from people that come to me that have done deals and like, man, they paid me 12%. Now I didn't get I lost money on the deal, but they gave me 12%. Well, how good of a deal was that? It wasn't a good deal. But we tend to think this way. We tend to get off center in these situations. But what we really have to think about, especially when we want to put our money out there, and this is a little saying that I heard years ago, and I love it, and we hold true to it. But first and foremost, you always want to think about the return of your money over the return on your money. I'm going to say it one more time. You always want to think about the return of your money over the return on your money every single time. Because I've seen people, they didn't get all their money back, but they got that interest rate. Well, did you really come out a winner? No, you lost money. That's a bad thing. So always be thinking about, as you put your money out there, am I going to get my money back? Now, obviously, this is investing. There's no guarantees in anything we do. But through educating yourself by taking some good steps, some proper steps, you can kind of put yourself in a much better situation to make better decisions, to hopefully put your money to work in better opportunities. So just keep it in mind. That's all. Just keep it in mind. So how many deals do you invest in a 12-month period of time? This is really a big question that I have people a little confused about it all the time, because it's really how consistent are we about keeping our money working? Oftentimes we're not. Most private lenders have a hard time keeping their money working, especially if you're listening to a lot of them that want to do fix and flips, because I hear that all the time. We want to lend on fix and flips. We want to lend on fix and flips. Well, we're in an environment that is very hard to keep that money working in most cases. Very difficult to keep that money working. And if you want the higher interest rates, it's even harder out there right now. I mean, I certainly don't pay those high interest rates when I'm borrowing. And if you're going to be finding the individuals that are going to pay those higher interest rates, oftentimes those are going to be people that have very little experience or have no experience at all. And so you're putting your money more at risk. But it's not uncommon to only find one, maybe two deals in a 12-month period of time. So when we do that, we say, hey, I got 12% on this deal, but my money was only working for 3 months out of the year. So in that 12-month period, you didn't make 12%. In that year, you made way less than 12%. So we've got to think about that. And then what happens when we go a full 12 months and we don't even find a deal? That I see that happening a lot. I see a lot of money just sitting there because people aren't finding those types of opportunities, but because they got excited about doing those type of deals, that's what they keep looking for, not realizing that there's 100 other opportunities that they could be getting into. So keep it in mind. I mean, it's important to keep that money working. That's the goal here, is to keep our money working. It's just sitting there, especially when it's sitting at Quest, it's just sitting there. You're not making anything on it. So be careful there. Finding investment programs that work for you. Now, like we talked about in the beginning, where are you in life? This is an important thing to think about when what strategies, what investments work best for us, what programs are out there that work best for us. We talked about the risk that we want to take in investing. It's going to be different for all of us. And what risks are there that are out there? There's lots of different risks, lots of different levels. But really what we have found over the past several years, and this is how we think of keeping our money working, is looking at what is the steady return on my money. It's the tortoise and the hare. That hare's in and out of deals, jumping all over. They're fast. But that turtle is steady and consistent all the time. And who always wins the race? The turtle always wins the race. So I didn't get that for a long time, but it took me a long time to figure that out. But now that we do a lot of that, more of the keeping that money working steady, it's a huge difference. I'm seeing those returns annually now, where before it's like, well, we made money here. Well, we really didn't make as much as we did because that money wasn't working. And so, finding those steady investments, and there's lots of different things out there. There's some great companies to work with. There's some great programs out there. And it's just a matter of going out, educating yourself, and finding what's available to you. And through companies like Quest, through companies like the Wealth Club, that's why we teach about this stuff. So we can help educate you to make those great decisions. So short-term investment opportunities. As we all know, short-term is going to be your fix and flip opportunities. That's what, we've done them for years. Like I said, from the borrowing side, we have rehabbed and fix and flipped hundreds and hundreds of homes, lots and lots of deals. But these are short-term deals. And in many cases, these are going to be a higher risk deal. It's a higher risk to us. Fortunately for us, it's never been a higher risk to our lenders, because we make sure our lenders are always taken care of. But it could be a risk for them. If we didn't do our homework, if we didn't make sure that they were paid no matter what, then it could be a huge risk for them. You've got to find people like that to work with. And I've got some great friends out there. We all do the same thing very, very well. But I also see a lot of those deals not work out as well. So we've got to be, go and find those people and vet them before we get to this point. And I know I keep going back on that, but it's that important that we know this, because I've seen so many people on the bad side of it, and I don't like that. So, we're investing in higher risk opportunities, and as we've been talking about, you're in and out of those deals. So it's going to make it much, much more difficult to keep that money working on a steady basis. So what we do in a lot of cases, from the borrowing side and from the lending side, what direction we're going much more is on our longer term investments, longer term opportunities. And when I say longer term, that always seems to scare people, because long term to me is anything over 12 months. So we do deals at 2 years, we do deals at 5 years, we have opportunities that we've done at 10 years and 15 years. So it can go all over the board. It's a matter of sitting down in the beginning and figuring out what works for you. What are you comfortable with? Where do you want to see your money grow? How do you want to see your money grow? So some of the things that we do, and that a lot of people do, it's not just us, for longer term investment opportunities, is rental properties, buying rental properties and putting them in your IRAs. Although if that legislation changed, that rule might change, I don't know. But what we've done is we have our private lenders lending on rental properties. So they're just a private lender. They're getting a check every single month. And that money is steady. It's month after month, year after year, for whatever the term is that we have set on that investment for that person. Lending in mortgage notes. Mortgage notes, and when I say mortgage notes, there's like a million different ways you can do mortgage notes, and I don't know most of them. I'll be real honest with you. We've got a very specific note program that we've created, but notes there's a million different things you can do with notes. And like I said, I'm not the expert on notes overall. Don't claim to be in any way, shape, or form. But we've got a very good program that we've put together based on things that we've done over the years that keeps that money working on 2-year terms. It's a fantastic thing. And, there's lots of different things out there. And like I said, I'm just sharing you some things that we do. There's other things out there besides this as well. Investing in some funds that are backed by mortgage notes and real estate. There's some great funds out there. There's some really crappy funds out there, but there's some very good funds out there if you do your homework, get your education. And this is what keeps our money working all the time. And when you're doing these types of investments, putting your money to work, now you're working with experienced people. You're people with track records that can show you results. And especially if you're newer and wanting to be a passive investor, these are some really great avenues that you can look at, that you can get education on, that you can think about. You can call and talk to us and we'll help you figure that stuff out. I mean, it's not a problem. But these are lending opportunities that generally pay you. They're going to pay you a lower interest rate, obviously, because that money's working all the time. And your numbers work differently in some of those situations, depending on those types of type of program you're in. Depending on funds pay different, notes pay different. It just you just have to sit down and figure out what works. But even though you're making maybe a little bit lower interest rate, your money's working all the time. So that turtle is just going slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady. It's a fantastic place to be. And, we didn't know this in the beginning ourselves. This was just things that we learned over the years. And these are the ways that we put our money to work quite often. Put our money to work in these types of programs. So very, very great things. You're going to get a much more consistent return. So you can actually calculate how much you made, what your return was on at the end of the year, instead of going, we had our money working, for 3 or 4 months at a high rate, but then it was sitting for 6 or 7 months and didn't make anything. So that return shrunk tremendously. So these are some things to be thinking about in getting your money working, putting yourself out there as a private lender, looking for these opportunities that will help you have better success and help you sleep better at night and not have to worry about some of the things that go on out there. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we've talked about today. So one of the things that we talked about in the beginning that I think is crucial in anything that we're doing is having a plan. We've got to have a plan. So put a plan together. It will help you tremendously. Determine your own personal risk tolerances based on whatever the factors are in your life. Doesn't matter. It's not about me. It's about you. So figure out what your risk tolerances are. But one of the things that I think is really important to bring up is finding opportunities and investments that stick within your plan. I see people make plans all the time and they want to do something that's way over here to the left of the plan. That's why we put a plan together, so we can follow it. And that's how we're going to have better success in the end, is make a plan, commit yourself to that plan and follow your plan. I think that's very, very, very important to do. And, we've got to vet all of our potential investments of any kind, no matter what we're doing, no matter who we're working with. We've got to be able to vet those deals. That's going to make sure that we can have a positive outcome over a negative outcome. Like I said, it's investing. There's no guarantees, but you're putting the odds in your favor much, much better by being able to vet your potential investments. And if you don't know how to do that, then finding the people that can help you do that is going to be extremely important. And like I say, we do it, but there's other people out there that do it as well. I mean, we know other people that do it. So the goal is to go out and get that money working, and be able to accomplish all the goals that you set forth in your life. And so that's pretty much what I've got. If you guys have any questions and you'd like to get a hold of me or get a hold of us, we've got the Wealth Club, we've got our SVSM companies. Here's all of our contact information. And if you are really, convinced that you want to be a private lender, you want to lend your money out, I've also got my private lender roadmap book. And if anybody that would like a free copy of this book, you can take a picture of the QR code and put your name, email address in there or something, then you get an ebook immediately. And if you would like a hard copy, then you just let us know and we will mail you a hard copy as well. So with that being said, I'll leave this up for a few seconds, but Derek, what questions might you have?
Yeah, so I got a couple of them for you, Steve. Is the number one thing that I think people always think about when they're talking about lending money and, hey, I want to be a lender, is they think about it backwards. They go, hey, well, what's my rate of return?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you look at that? Like when someone asks that type of question or something like that, what's the first thing you think they should look at before rate of return?
Well, before rate of return, you like I talked about in the beginning, who are you working with? Rate of return doesn't matter if you don't get your money back.
There you go.
Anybody can promise you anything. It's always, to me, been about who am I working with? And we are very, very big. We build relationships. That's the key for me.
And I would agree with that, right? And I'm a prime example. I am a member of the Wealth Club, right? And I've worked with you for a couple of years now. And a lot of it does come down to just, A, who are you working with? B, what is your security, right? If I know that my money's secured, I start to feel more safe about doing the investments.
Mm-hmm.
So yep. On top of that, just some brief things on here. If someone's lending money, how do you feel about them charging points or no points? Is it better to have more points and less interest and more points? Like,
well,
kind of
that's kind of that's going to be up to an individual, but I can tell you for myself personally, I pay no points. I don't pay points. I think, especially in an environment like we're in, it's a very competitive environment out there.
Absolutely.
So if you want to get that higher interest rate, if you want to charge points, you're going to have probably a lot less people that want to work with you, especially if it's someone that's got experience. If it's someone that has no experience, hey, when I first got into this, of course, it was a whole different market when I started this. but I've paid 12 and 2. I paid 12 and 2 all day long and was thrilled to do it. Have never had a problem with it. But it's been a very, very long time since I paid that. Yeah. But I'm for me personally, if someone comes to me and wants a lot of points, then I'm probably going to say, but probably better for you to work with someone else, because I just see complications in the whole structure of the relationship.
I see more points with the hard money lenders, right? When you go to the hard money lender types.
Yeah, your hard money guys, they're gonna hard money is so different than private money like we're talking about. It's an entirely different ball game.
Yeah.
And their rules are way different. It's a very structured transaction with them. They're running all your credit, they're doing everything. So
now, one of the ways that you and I actually met, we're gonna switch gears slightly, okay, and just kind of to close things out for people, is we met because of the Wealth Club. Can you talk to me a little bit about what the Wealth Club is and what do you guys do and when is your next event and that type of stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, the Wealth Club, we've always been, our tagline has always been investors helping investors. Long before we ever took over the Wealth Club, that's been the tagline from the beginning. And the Wealth Club, we're in our 19th year now. Believe that. That's crazy. But we with the Wealth Club, from the education side, it's about giving true education. It's about teaching you guys exactly what we do. Anytime we have our meetings, we have a monthly meeting, which it's coming up at the end of the month. I'll give you that information in a minute. But anybody that comes in and teaches at the Wealth Club, it's about teaching you a subject. It's not about giving you a pitch fest. We've never done that. And it's like I say, there's no secrets out there. It's important that we know how to do the right things. And long before we ever took over the Wealth Club, we were members of the Wealth Club for years. And one of the things that we were always so comfortable with was anytime we asked questions or talked to someone, they were always willing to give us the answer. If we were willing to sit down and work with them and try and figure it out, people were willing to help us. And that was really different than any other place that we had been. And so we take that to heart and we keep that going. So giving great education, being very honest, as you can tell, I'm not a fluff person. I'm just telling it like it is through my eyes. Now you have to make it work for yourself, but I'm just trying to throw the ideas out there and then put it into your own personal life and go out and have great success. So that's really what the Wealth Club is about, and helping investors, put their money to work, show them what they can do. And if our programs work, hey, great, we're happy to work with you. If all the other things that we talked about today align, then, we'll move forward. But we have a monthly meeting. We have different membership levels. I've got a mastermind with our platinum group tonight. And so, but we do have a monthly meeting, and we are actually doing live meetings now, and we're holding them here at the Quest building. And so we're just trying to get people back out to being somewhat normal again. But our meeting this month, we're always the last Thursday of the month, and this month that's going to be on September 30th, last Thursday. We always serve free food, free drinks for everybody. We have great networking. Yeah, right. We have great networking. We have all of our vendors out. Our topic this month, we're going to have Mr. Tom Berry is going to be talking about where the state of our market right now, and also talking about commercial deals out there, what's happening in the commercial world. Tom is also the owner of ILS, so they're lending. They're very active and lending lots of money out to lots of different people from the hard money side, and so it brings a whole different perspective from what I'm talking about from the lending side. But Tom is a great speaker. He's going to give you fantastic education, and then coming out and networking and getting to meet other people. I mean, I love to get to meet everybody that I talk to, and so we'd love to have you come out and join us. And like I said, that's going to be September 30th, last Thursday of the month, when we open the doors at 6:30 for food, networking, drinks, and good time.
I love it, Steve. So what's the best way for people to either email you or get a hold of you in case they want to ask you more questions about lending, joining the Wealth Club, attending one of the events that are completely free?
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you want any information on the Wealth Club, you can look us up on our website. It's you got to put thewealthclub.org. If you put Wealth Club, it's going to take you to someplace in Europe. So put thewealthclub.org, and we've got all of our contact information on there. Let me see if I can remember our phone number, because I had it up and we got so many phone numbers I forgot. But I think it's 713-644-3500. You can call us at the office, and Angie answers the phone, and she'll connect you with me if you have any questions. I'm always more than happy to help you, and if there's anything we can do to help guide you in doing the right thing. Like I said, we've actually created a new program with the Wealth Club because of everything we've seen over the past couple of years with people getting just really hammered on some very bad transactions. So we've actually created a new program to help guide and consult some of our passive investors out there.
Awesome. And then last chance. Oh, and Lori, it's located actually here at the Quest office. That's going to be in pretty much Katy, Texas. It's I-10 in Barker Cypress, or I-10 in Highway 6, depending on which way you're kind of coming from. So you can send me an email, Lori, if you'd like, and I'll send you over the address right away.
Yeah, and if you check on our website, we also have the address. It's 17171 Park Row to help you find our location.
Yeah, perfect. And I just put that in the chat box for everybody as well. So in closing, guys, real fast, don't forget about some of the up and coming bill changes, where Quincy and I are going to be doing a class on that tomorrow at 2 p.m. Right. Once again, if you want to sign up for that, send me an email, give me a call, let me know, and I'll get you registered right away. And if you want to learn more about just learning how to be an investor, right, and join a group where they're just sitting there not selling things, but they're there to help and educate people, reach out to Steve in the Wealth Club, and just know that we're both here to help you guys out in no matter what areas you need. So Steve, thanks for coming on. We do appreciate it. I
Thank
love you
you
to
very
death.
much.
You're one of my best friends out there. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Quest, and thank you everybody for joining us, and let us know if we can help you.
You got it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.